All right. So good morning. It's really nice to see all of you guys in person. I've already gotten to speak with a few of you guys who I've only met via Zoom, hoping to get to know the rest of you guys over the next day or so. But yeah, as Maggie mentioned, I'm John Kubale, project director for the coordinating center, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about what we've been working on over the last year, and then kind of some ideas and some topics related to where we're going to be going over the coming year, and hope to kind of hear your thoughts about what I'm going to present on today after I kind of get through my slides. So I can advance them. So I figured, since we are close to DC, this is essentially kind of our State of the Union address, talking about what we've done, where we're going. So just kind of as a quick reminder, you've already heard from Maggie and myself today. You guys hear from Megan quite a bit, who's up here in the front row. You'll also get to meet Jim McNally, who's a co-investigator on this project. He'll be here just a little bit later on this morning. Unfortunately, another co-investigator at the coordinating center, Amy Pienta, at the last minute was unable to join us. But again, has been providing some really pivotal contributions to the coordinating center. So I think it's good to kind of just remind everybody on kind of what the main aims of the coordinating center are, and they can kind of be boiled down into these five specific aims. So we have the research collaboration, where we're intending to foster collaboration among you guys and the broader COVID research community. Also dissemination and publicity. This is when we're bugging you guys about papers and presentations, so we can talk about the amazing work that you guys are doing. Also, providing guidance and support for consortium members. We have a lot of, really nice expertise. So particularly in survey methodology, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, from Brady West and James Wagner. Then, as John mentioned just a few minutes ago, we do have the pilot program. And obviously, here is the annual meeting, which we're thrilled to have our first in person here. So I know you guys have been working together off and on for the last year, but actually since the last annual meeting that we had, which was fully online, we've had three more groups join us. And so you can see them down here at the bottom. We have Emily Wiemers, Coulter Mitchell, Helen Meyer, and Chris Monk, and then also Pei-Yin Hung and Xiaoming Li. And so I just want to give you guys an extra warm welcome. We're thrilled to have you guys here at this second annual meeting. So diving right into kind of, some of the specifics about, what we've been working on, we'll start with kind of the research and collaboration piece. So, we started out in the first year and a half, doing pretty regular monthly meetings. And we ended up, deciding that, as projects were maturing and you guys were getting busier, that it made more sense to kind of do, quarterly annual meetings, and then kind of interspersed within those, we've been trying to have, guest speakers and webinars on different topics that are of interest to consortium members. We've also, been starting up working groups on topics that are of interest to consortium members, specifically looking at one we looked at was long COVID. So looking at and reviewing survey questions and how how to incorporate them into your studies of long COVID and vaccination. Another big piece that we've been working on at the coordinating center is related to common data elements. And so, again, a big piece of kind of the collaboration and coordination is trying to ensure that the data that are being collected are as useful as possible. And this involves, encouraging harmonization but also identifying, where how can we better measure specific concepts of interest. And so one area where we've kind of been focusing on the last year is particularly related to policy mitigation measures related to COVID-19. And so this is something that Megan and I have been working on quite a bit. And I know you guys have heard from us about this a little bit, so I won't go into too much detail. Megan will also talk a bit more about this tomorrow. But really kind of trying to get at, what are the key concepts related to, that we want to make sure that we're measuring if we're trying to assess the impact of a COVID mitigation policy. We've since submitted them to the National Library of Medicine, and they're currently under review. I think fortunately, we got an email last week. I think we're very close to the end of that review process so that they should be endorsed and added to the NLM repository. But if you'd like to see more about these specific CDs, there's a QR code and a link right there. Another thing that's been kind of quietly happening at the coordinating center is the COVID measures archive. And so again, this kind of goes towards that overall goal of trying to encourage harmonization and consistency of measures across studies. And so what this is really a database of variables from our consortium member studies, but also from external researchers as well. And it allows, and I'll actually show a demonstration kind of here in just a second, but really what it's allowing you to do is to search and find different measures, survey questions, and see exactly how they're being measured in different studies. We already have metadata from several of you guys. So a special thank you to Shannon Monat, to Claire Camp-Duchenin-Meyer, to Grace Noppert and Philippa Clark, and Brian Elbel and Amy Schwartz, who have already provided us some great metadata. And you can actually already go into the archive and start seeing some of their measures. So how would you actually do this? So there are a few different ways that you can kind of get to this. You can follow that QR code or the link right there. But you can access it really easily from our website by going to the COVID-19 research tab and then selecting the Find Studies and Variables option. And then what that'll do is that'll take you to this screen right there. And anybody who's familiar with ICPSR and has used our data, this should look a little bit familiar. And essentially what this is it's a searchable database of variables. And so you can see right here that they're grouped into different categories. You can see the different variables for specific studies. We have a specific series that multiple studies may be grouped into. And then we also have associated publications that can be a really nice resource for you if you're interested in seeing who's actually using your data. Once it's included in this, that's something that we kind of monitor as part of ICPSR and our collection criteria. And then right there, you can kind of see some very basic information on some different variables. One is from NANDA, or actually both of these are from NANDA, and you can kind of see the variable name, a quick little description of that, the variable type, and then actually the specific data set. So kind of a nice little summary of information that's already available there. You can also use this to search and find specific variables on given topics. So say you were interested in COVID-19 related variables affecting students. So this is just showing what those results might look like. And we can see that we have 36 different variables. This is just showing the first three. We have one from the National Wellbeing Survey, another from Brian Elbel and Amy Schwartz study in New York City schools, and then also another variable from the NCHAT study. And again, you can kind of see the kind of summary information there to tell you a little bit about what those variables actually involve. But you can actually click on the variable and find even more information. And so here you can actually see this is one of the variables from the New York City school studies. And you can see the permissible values. You can see what the values actually mean. And then here it's not, we don't actually have kind of the unweighted frequency, but in certain cases, you will actually be able to see kind of a frequency table for how many people responded with each answer. But that's going to depend a bit on kind of the restriction level of the data and also the preferences of the researcher. So that's not available across the board. You'll also see that there's some additional information down below in the notes where you can see kind of the source where the variable is from. And that's actually something that we're actively working on expanding. So adding things, related to how the variables were created. A lot of you guys are using data that may not necessarily be accessible, but it's still worthwhile for us to, have the metadata and have the information on how you created those variables, for questions around reproducibility and transparency. So stay tuned for that. We will be, we're actively working on increasing and, adding features to this. Another really nice feature is that you can actually compare different variables side by side. And so here are two variables, one from the IPUM's contextual determinants of health, and then another from NANDA. And you can again see the variable name, the label. We're working on adding question text, but that's something that's still is still in progress. You can see responses in some cases, but then also this really nice thing where it shows you the actual time period for which the variable is referring to, and then the specific population or universe that it operates in. So some really nice kind of summary information if you're trying to find different measures that might be useful for your study. So To clarify, if you go to this kind of database through or archive through our website, you're going to be focused specifically on COVID measures. But this is kind of a window into the larger social science variables database. And so you can actually look for non-COVID related measures or look for studies that aren't in the COVID archive by going to ICPSR's website and clicking on the Find Data tab. And so, if you're interested in how, specific demographic variables were created, this might be a place for you, or something that's not necessarily COVID related. This will allow you to look at all of the different variables that are in the SSBD. Once again, it looks largely the same, but as you can see, if you were to go in there and search for, say, COVID stimulus, you can see that, on the top, we have the National Well-Being Survey, which is in the COVID archive, but then we have this COVID-19 experiences of the population at greatest risk wave 2. So there will be other studies that aren't necessarily in the COVID archive that you can access through this. So it just kind of adds to the functionality of it a bit. So as I mentioned, some of the next steps that we have are, adding, expanding what's offered already in the COVID measures archive. We're also going to be asking for more of your metadata, so stay tuned. If you'd like to look at kind of the deposit instructions and get a little bit ahead of the game, you can follow this link or this QR code for a nice guide that Megan put together. We are also, hoping to have a discussion tomorrow to look at potential new measures where we might be well positioned to create or design new common data elements. And so that's something I believe tomorrow morning where we're hoping to have some discussion with all of you on that. Then this is kind of just a rough outline for the coming year. As I want to call special attention to an optional meeting that we have next month in October, where I think we're really fortunate to have Iram Azam from NIA's Office of Data Resources and Analytics talking about a really nice program that NIA offers with regard to accessing and linking CMS data. I know a lot of you guys are interested or are currently working with CMS data, and so I think this will be of interest to you guys. So I really hope that you guys can attend that, but it will also be recorded and made available to you guys. Again, this is kind of a rough outline where we're looking to have kind of the required meeting in January and another required meeting in April. And then I know we've also had several discussions already about, the potential timing of the next year's annual meeting. And so that's something I certainly think we would love to have more discussion about, because I know there's never a good time for everybody, but maybe we can find something that works for most. So moving on to aim 2, so looking at dissemination and publicity. So, we've been posting pretty regularly on the ICPSR Twitter account, or I guess X as it's now known. We've been working hard to share news, announcements, publications on our website and through ICPSR's bulletins. Megan and I have both been, pretty active on the conference circuit. So these are just some of the ones where we've probably run into some of you guys at PAA, APHA, SAR, and iAssist. And then also have been, trying to highlight the amazing work that you guys are doing at the various ICPSR events that we've had. We also this spring did send out our first newsletter, hoping to send out our second later on this fall. And you can see here, this was at NICAR, another conference we didn't mention, where we happened to run into the census director, where we, had to give him a shameless plug about the consortium. We've also been working hard with our tech folks to make website enhancements, particularly of our research profiles. Sorry to put you on the spot, Rita, but we thought your page was particularly good, and so we've been again trying to use this as an avenue to really communicate the amazing stuff that you guys are doing. We've also been working with our partners at the Center for Health and Research Transformation, or CHART, to basically come up with messaging strategies and be able to describe your results and your findings and the work you're doing to broader audiences. So some of the next steps that we're looking at related to dissemination and publicity is, again, you guys are continuing to do new work. You're continuing to put out new results. So we will, be working on updating the researcher profiles with the material from this year, obviously the material that's not embargoed. And here are kind of some of our upcoming conference plans. So We have our annual our biennial meeting at ICPSR in October. We will also be at PAA right near Bruce and Kurt in Columbus. I will be at the SER in Austin, and I believe Megan will be at Academy Health in Boston. And then the plan is currently that I'll be at Options for the Control of Influenza in Brisbane as well. So this is just kind of another shameless plug to send us your publications, your conference posters, any kind of important news, job posts, things like that, so we can share and get the word out about that. We'd love to hear, what you're doing, but also if there are things that we can help with and, getting your message out to a broader audience, that's what we're here for. And we want to make sure that we're doing that. So aim 3 is looking at guidance and support for consortium members. So we've done a lot, as far as training sessions. I know a lot of you guys have attended, some of the sessions in survey methodology with both Brady West and James Wagner. Amy Pienta has given a few different talks on NIH's new data sharing policy. And you can actually watch any of these webinars on YouTube. And I believe there are links actually on our website as well. This is also another, kind of plug. I know some of you guys have already begun taking advantage of the amazing services that Brady and James offer. But again, just kind of a reminder, we have these 2 amazing faculty members at ISR who really are experts in survey methodology, statistics, and are really great and easy to work with. So again, just a reminder that one-on-one consulting is available, and we do plan to have some additional training opportunities, both from them and potentially from some others as well. If you do want to set up a consultation, it's just a reminder where you have this SBE CCC-consult email that you can reach out to. So now moving on to the pilot projects that we've had. So we started fairly small in the first year, giving out 3 grants of a total up to $30,000 in total costs. And so last year, with the help of the supplement that we received, we were able to increase the maximum award size and basically kind of have this 2-track approach where we have some awards where you can apply for a smaller grant of up to $30,000 in total costs, but then also larger grants of up to $60,000 in total costs. We worked really hard on trying to get the word out about these to try to grow and get more diverse applications. And I think it worked, where we got 21 different applications last year, which resulted in 5 awards that you're going to hear about this afternoon. And here are our amazing pilot grantees. And again, really looking forward to hearing about the amazing work that they've been doing. So for the next year, we're planning to kind of operate under the same plan that we did last year. So again, we're going to have kind of the 2 project size tracks. So up to $60,000 in total costs and up to $30,000 in total costs. The timeline is largely the same, where full proposals are going to be due December 1st, and then we'll announce awards by December 22nd. And then the plan is to have those awards start by March 1st, 2024. We are adding a couple different priority areas. So one is looking at essential work, telework, and the evolving workplace from the pandemic. And then also the implications of Medicaid unwinding and the ending of other pandemic era policies and how that's impacted health. We have some flyers at the check-in table, and then we should be posting the RFP by the end of the month. So aim 5, our annual meeting. So one thing that we were able to do in 2022 was, have our non-ideal, but I think still productive virtual annual meeting. And so thank you guys for staying with us on Zoom that entire day. I know it's a long time to be on Zoom. And then we, because using those recorded talks and the slides you were able to have, we had an impact report that chart put together that I think was a really nice kind of summary of all the great stuff that you guys have been doing. And so obviously in 2023, we're here and able to see you guys in person, which we're thrilled about. And we hope to do that again next year. So we've been kind of thinking about next year's annual meeting in September or October in person in Bethesda or Ann Arbor with the virtual option available. But again, I think, after having several conversations with folks, we're certainly open to talking about, potential, changing the timing of that. One quick reminder is don't forget to send us a figure from your presentation with a caption, on how it should be interpreted or looked at by September 25th. And please don't forget to notify us of any embargoed content. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions you guys might have.
So I think you said this, but I'm not sure. So the consortium, the COVID measures archive is just the consortium measures. Is that correct? Or is it from outside too?
We do have some, the plan is also to add some from outside, but they're
Okay.
all COVID related. But you can imagine that, in surveys that people are putting out, not every question they're asking is necessarily COVID related. And so that's why I wanted to highlight, you can also access, these studies through the main SSVD.
So I guess I just wanted to follow up and see how, if and how this was overlapping with the Phoenix and the DR2 databases of COVID measures.
Yeah, it's a bit different where it's more specific metadata, but I think they're complementary, but slightly different. It's meant to kind of leverage the SSVD, which has existed for quite some time. So
thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we said that leveraging the SSVD, that's the social sciences variable database that ICPSR supports. And that means that they're linked to all the other information about it in the study. So if it's a very from NSHAT, you can get to all of the other metadata about NSHAT. You can compare it to other things, and you can get to the publications database. That's a context for the variables themselves.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for the measures. So far, all the measures are publicly available, like you register through ICPSR, you can download it. But in the future, can we deposit confidential measures through VDE or?
Yeah, so I should be clear. So the measures archive does not necessarily mean that the data is publicly available. So we already do have some measures that are from restricted data sources. So you actually can't access the data themselves through, directly through ICPSR, but it'll show that usually in kind of when you can see in the study field. So we already have some that are restricted, but this is really just the information on how the variables were defined, operationalized, not necessarily the data themselves. We do have data on a lot of them, but it's really the metadata, not the data. So.
I guess building on that, is there a code available for some of these restricted sources where somebody could then maybe wrangle it into something that they could more immediately use?
In some cases, yes, and I'm looking back at Claire Camp Dish right now. So that's actually something that we've been talking to them about is leveraging another platform that ICPSR has called the linkage library, which is meant to be a place where people can share code on how they linked data sets together, so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel and write their own code. And so specifically for the IPMs, social determinants of health, we hope to have that code publicly available. I think by the end of this year or maybe early next year, something like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you guys.